What up, ladies and gents? Welcome back into the Jets group chat pod. Once again, I'm your host, Matt Cardos. Got almost a full house tonight. Is about as full as this house is ever gonna get. We got PJ in his Santa Claus robe, chilling out here. We got Dennis. Of course, forgot his fucking laptop at school again on the phone.
It happens.
How we feeling? Well, you're doing well. We're gonna get into that in a few minutes. Your drinks on you coming up this weekend. We'll say that.
I thought you just go buy yourself a new laptop. Why not?
Have one for
just
home too?
DoorDash a laptop.
That's right. I gotta get some food.
And last but certainly not least, handsome Jerry Spiga. How we doing?
What's up? How we doing? Good. Feeling good today, man. Today was a good day.
It was a good day. I feel like I haven't seen you guys in a while. We haven't done a pod since like week 4 of the regular season. We kind of just mailed it in on what was the most brutal probably Jet season we've experienced in a long time. So
this organization will do that to you, man.
Yeah, if anybody will make you punt on a podcast, it's the Jets. So, but as you said, today was a very good day for the organization, a homecoming of sorts. Finally, after canning Robert Saleh back in October, we finally have a head coach. It's a familiar name. It's a familiar face that's kind of has a lot of good memories with the franchise and former corner Aaron Glenn. Seems like it's kind of been in the works for a few days now. I know Jets Twitter was losing their fucking mind last night, thinking this might not get done once he left the building, but sounds like it was kind of sealed and delivered last night. And of course, Aaron Glenn is officially the head coach of the New York Jets. So I guess, Dennis, your thoughts on the homecoming for Aaron Glenn?
Well, out of everybody looking at it, even before, everybody was like, we want Ben Johnson, we want this person. I think I always kind of wanted and would be happy with Aaron Glenn. He's a former Jet. He learned from Bill Parcells. He's been on different defensive staffs over the last 5, 6, 7 years. He was on the Saints, then on the Lions. And he seemed like he was coveted by more than, just us.
Right.
So I was cool with that. I feel like the Jets get it wrong with almost every time in my entire life. So I really wouldn't get mad at this point at whoever it was. But, I'm happier that they took him.
Sure. I feel the same way as you. PJ, how did you feel? I feel like you kind of were on board, but maybe not on board. What are your feelings on Glenn?
No, I'm all good. Yeah, I like Aaron Glenn. Yeah, I've always liked Aaron Glenn. Who's got kids?
Was he the guy?
I heard kids in the background.
Yeah, I heard some kids screaming. All right.
Well, there's only one of us.
Jack.
Yeah, no worries. You're good, brother. Was he? But I would assume all of us, I think, wanted Vrabel from the get-go. But once it became apparent that wasn't going to happen, it felt like the consensus was Glenn was probably our guy. Spiga, you feel the same way? Was Glenn always kind of your guy after Vrabel?
Yeah, I think for me, Vrabel was definitely, high on my list. Definitely a high culture guy. Definitely, had the track record that I wanted. Then when he was out the door, quickly pivoted. To me, Glenn was always, the high on the list. I feel like I don't care about the whole he's defensive coordinator. Oh, I want an offensive mind. I want a leader of men. That's all I care about. I want somebody who's going to come in, keep people accountable, and really be a leader. And I feel like that's what we've been missing for a while. That's what we thought we had in Saleh. Didn't really work out as best as we thought it would. But I really think everything that we're reading, everything we're seeing, we got that in Glenn. He's a homegrown guy. He's drafted by the Jets, Pro Bowl for the Jets. Comes from the Bill Parcells, I guess not really tree, but played under Parcells. I'm happy with it, man. I think we're in a good space, and I feel better with some of the other guys that they were bringing in because I was getting nervous. They were interviewing anybody and everybody under the sun, and I was not about some of the names that they were showing up.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to can't kind of keep going with the same playbook time after time. It's another first-time head coach, and if you really think back to the Jets have gone with first-time head coaches really since Bill Parcells 30-something years ago. Yep. You went from him to Herm Edwards, who was a first-time head coach, to Al Groh. You went to Al Groh, to Herm Edwards, to Eric Mangini, to Rex Ryan, to Todd Bowles. Actually, Adam Gase wasn't a first-time head coach. but he certainly wasn't
played
successful. Yeah.
Like
But for the most part, the Jets have gone with first time, head coaches for majority of the last 30 years, and it obviously has not played out well in their favor. It hasn't gone well. So you kind of get skeptical about the playbook. But I agree. It seems like he's the right guy for this team right now, given just how undisciplined they've been, how unaccountable they've been.
Mhm.
It seemed like Saleh was going to be that guy, like you said, and I don't want to like jump ahead of things. Like Glenn might turn out to be a terrible hire, and we could look back on this day and be like, man, what were we doing? We got it wrong again. Because I think we all did this the day Saleh got hired 4 years ago. We watched the videos of him pumping his fists on the sidelines and going nuts with sacks, and it felt like he was going to be a guy that would hold people accountable. But he really turned out to not be that. He was more of like I don't know, like I'm your best friend kind of rah guy.
Something happened. Like, I mean, everything that we saw is he was going to be that. Like, he needed a get back coach when he was in San Francisco, and then all of a sudden you couldn't have him move when he was on the side, and he just stand there and stare and look, and like something happened, something clicked. He just didn't. He didn't bring what he said he was going to bring.
His stare was so baffling, bro. His stare was just like so. When everything bad would go on, it was so funny.
I don't know if he was in over his head. I mean, again, I don't want to be speculation or anything like that, because I thought Sal was going to work out and I wanted him to, but there was just something about that first year, then after just snowballed. I think he got in over his head. I didn't know how he didn't get his way out of it. I think it didn't work. Let's just leave it at that. And we're turning the page, new chapter. Aaron Glenn, let's make it work. Finally, please.
I do wonder how it would have been if he like stayed for the whole season, then maybe got fired towards the end of the season. I do wonder that though.
It got so much worse.
I think it's in retrospect, it's obvious it wouldn't have been as bad as it ended up being if they had kept him on board. They might have won, I don't know, 2, 3, maybe 4 more games. Maybe they're like the Bengals at the end of the year. Yeah, no, I know. I'm saying maybe you get into some kind of wild card contention. I mean, I think if they could go, well, apparently Woody Johnson said he had no regrets and he wouldn't go back and change anything. But I think any educated Jet fan that could look back and see how the season unfolded, Ulbrich was way in over his head. He was not ready to kind of, and I don't blame him. I mean, he just kind of got stuck with the job he wasn't ready for, and he just wasn't good at it. It was obvious that he was way in over his head and overmatched every single time that they went out there on the field.
It was too far gone. I feel like all of it was just too far off the reservation for him to reel it in. Because I think, he was at some point was going to be the heir apparent for head coaching position. I was looking at him for head coaching nod, but I think that it was the locker room was too far gone. The Aaron Rodgers chatter was too loud. His job at that point was literally just to keep it together to the end of the season. Just get to the end of the season. And then make your move, go somewhere else.
Yeah, it was obvious like the locker room kind of checked out after that, especially the defense. I mean, the play level of the defense fell off of a cliff this year in general, and they were not trending in a good direction when Saleh was still there. But once Saleh walked out the door, the defense fell off of a cliff. Whether that was just the defense checking out that their guy wasn't there anymore, or it was the fact that Ulbrich could no longer put as much time into the defense, which I don't really buy. Maybe he was spread too thin. I don't know, but for whatever reason, it kind of coincided. The minute Saleh walked out the door, the defense it went from your strength to arguably your weakness in the second half of the season.
It's terrible.
I know you could say what you want about like the offense not being good, Rodgers looking bad for a lot of the year. The Jets probably win 3 or 4 more games if the defense gets a stop on the final. Yeah. They lost 5 or 6 drives on the last drive that the defense cost them this season. So I mean, if the defense is what it's been the last 2-3 years under Saleh, the Jets you're talking about probably potentially at least a wild card contender. But because they were just couldn't stop the run. Couldn't get off the field, too many penalties. Anytime they did get a stop, there was just stupid. How many times are we going to see the roughing the passer or the
Holding.
Yeah, unnecessary
Secondary.
roughness and stuff like that. It's just too many undisciplined penalties that cost them deep in games.
It felt like it happened 5-6 times a game.
Yeah, and that's here where, I mean, Glenn's gonna have his hands full coming in here, but there's talent here, and I think that's where maybe you're not looking for maybe the best schematic guy in a head coach. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be X's and O's. You're kind of looking for a guy that's just going to bring that pedigree. He's been out there. He's an all-pro. And most of all, he's done it in this market. He's done it with the Jets. And not only has he done it with the Jets, the thing I like most about this hire is he was on the Jets that year with Kotite when they went 1-15. And he was there when they were the worst team in the league, had the first.
He was a big piece of their turning it around, too.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, so he was there when they were the worst team in the league. And a year later, he knows what a coaching hire can do and how important the culture is, because Parcells came in the next year. They went 9-7 after going 1-15. And 2 years later, they go 12-4. They're in the AFC Championship game, and he's been part of that. And, of course, now it's kind of similar story in Detroit. Detroit, we all know. We made fun of Detroit our entire life as kids growing up. They were, it could always be worse as a Jet fan. You could be a Lions fan. Like, it was horrific being a Lions fan, and now they're like the toast of the town.
Yep.
And
he wasn't part of that. He wasn't part of the AFC Championship games.
No,
in 1998. In 98.
Yeah.
When they had Bill Parcells, he was on the 98.
It was his Pro Bowl year.
Yeah, he was an All-Pro. Had like 6 interceptions, 2 pick sixes, I think.
Who was the other corner? Wasn't it like Victor?
Victor Green. I think he was was he safety or was he corner?
No, he was a corner. Yeah, and Ray Mickens was the third.
Ray
corner.
Mickens.
Yeah, Aaron Glenn, Ray Mickens, and Victor Green. Yeah, Otis Smith was the safety.
That's what I was thinking of. Otis Smith.
Yeah, I can't remember who the others, but that was the like Mo Lewis, Marvin Jones.
Yeah. Marvin Jones wants to come back and coach, right?
I think he does coach. He might coach in college.
I think he's ready. He wants to join the staff or something, I believe.
Yeah. Brian Cox was on that team. That was a good team in 98. But I think this is the right guy for the right situation. I just think you said it earlier, Speak, he's a leader of men.
Yeah.
And I like this one video clip that I saw. I'm going to try and throw it up here now if I can get it. Let's see how this thing
is it the interview with Ryan Clark?
Yeah, it's like a 9-second clip, but I don't know if this doesn't fire you up, man. I don't know what does. Let me try and cue this up real quick.
Choose me because I'm the best coach. And if I'm the best coach, again, let's go win some games. Because we're going to do that. We're going to do that. I guarantee that.
I love it.
Choose me.
Yeah, if that doesn't get you fired up, man, I don't know what will. But
I got a question.
What's that?
What fires you up more, that clip or Adam on a Friday night?
I don't know. I don't know. Adam on a Friday night's pretty good, but Adam on going for a 17-leg parlay on a Friday night is now nothing will get you going quite like that.
That's true.
Before we get into the next part of the kind of the staff situation, speaking of parlays, what is that? I hear you had a nice successful betting extravaganza going for yourself last night.
Yeah, it was actually just by coincidence. So this is the second time I've done this actually. FanDuel sends me a 30% profit boost, so I just pick college teams. So I just pick 11 random games. I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head who they are, but 11 random games, $2 to win. I think it was 7,000. And yeah, I went to sleep. I thought the bet was lost already. I thought it lost on the first leg. And I woke up and I'm at work and I just flying into my FanDuel and I see there's an extra 5,000 in my account. So
$5,000.
Just random bets.
That's crazy. And all college teams, right?
All
which is hard as hell to pick in its own.
Did you know what you were doing or you just picked randoms?
I just
ran like a girl, bro. You just like
yeah, kind of. Like I looked at the teams and I was like, all right, over, under, plus, minus and that was it. Like it wasn't really no thought to it because the games. I actually had 2 other games on there, but they started, so they got X'd out, and I just picked up another 2.
Okay.
Like, just
Lucky
random,
draw.
literally
So
just
it-
random $2.
Look at the draw.
What's the first thing you're gonna buy?
I DoorDash after this.
Attaboy.
I'm
You know what?
hungry.
You buy that extra guacamole. You
And then
deserve
I'll
it.
get PJ a beer this weekend. Cardos one on Friday, PJ Saturday.
Yeah, as long as we partake in a couple beverages to celebrate the Aaron Glenn hiring and you hitting the 5K, we'll have some celebratory cocktails for sure.
I'm in.
All right, sounds good to me. Well, obviously now they have Aaron Glenn in tow. That's like kind of the most important thing that they had to get out of the way. Now, obviously, comes I guess, probably just as importantly, getting a staff in place, especially going down the playbook of hiring another first-time coach, another defensive guy with not a lot of course, Glenn says he's been involved a lot offensively. He's watches offensive tape and goes into offensive meetings. So it could be a little bit different than it has been in years past, but obviously he's raw as a head coach, and it's going to be super important to kind of see who he surrounds himself with as a staff. Spiga, I guess, what are your thoughts on just, I guess, some of the names that have been floating out there connected to a potential Glenn staff, and any names that maybe pop out to you, and or maybe beyond names, just what are you looking for in an offensive, defensive, or any of these position guys?
Yeah. To be honest, I mean, we say this all the time, first time head coach, you want to surround yourself with some experience. I saw a couple names that floated out there, but I think the Steve Wilkes one is a big one for me. Another former head coach, another defensive minded coordinator. He can help alleviate some of that stress and have Glenn be that leader, be that, CEO of the locker room. And then he can lean on him for, what do you do in this situation? You've been a head coach before. I think he's an interim head coach. He was for a little bit, was it for the Cardinals, I think, too, as of recently.
So no, he was full time for the Cardinals. He was
full time.
Yeah. He was interim, I want to say, for the Panthers.
Panthers?
When they shook hands rule, I think he was interim.
So I think something like that type of experience is going to be big for him. And on the offensive side, that's probably going to be his most crucial hiring. You've got to hit on that offensive side. I've seen a lot of names. I think Nick Cowley is one that came out, but I think he was interviewing with Seattle. Gary Kubiak's son's another name floating around. I don't know. It's got to be somebody.
Kubiak,
yeah, Clint Kubiak. It's got to be somebody who's going to come.
Mark Brunell.
See, do you really want to pair a first-time offensive coordinator or first-time anything?
Yeah,
I like Clint Kubiak.
I love Josh McCown. I always thought he would be a great coach here, but I think he's too fresh to even take he won't even take offensive coordinator jobs. He won't look for a head coaching spot. But either way, the biggest thing, you got to surround yourself with guys who've done it before, people you can lean on their experience. And I would love it, friend of the pod, Mike Westhoff, be your special teams coordinator.
Let's go, Mike.
Probably won't happen because, he walked away from the Broncos for health concerns. We want to make sure that he's, healthy and happy down here in Florida. But, surround yourself with experience, surround yourself with other talent, and do what he does best to be the leader that he can be, the best leader he can be.
Yeah, I think I saw earlier that a potential, if Westhoff were to come out of retirement, I think he would just be part of the staff. I don't know necessarily as a special teams coach. Yeah, like so maybe like an assistant head coach, which what he was in Denver this past year. He was not the special teams coach. He was just kind of the assistant head coach with Peyton as an advisor. I actually just before we came on, I think we're going to get Mike back on the pod again.
Hey.
He is away this
Shout out, Mike.
Or no, he's away all of next week, but I think that first week of February he has a few days booked, and then towards that end of that first week, so we're trying to set up a date to get him back on the pod. Would be cool potentially if he is on the Jets staff when he comes back on said pod. So that's potential, but if not, he's a great guy to ask about. Aaron Glenn kind of has been around the organization and knows what Glenn is all about. And if I'm not mistaken, they might have crossed paths in New Orleans because Glenn was on the New Orleans staff with Sean
Yeah.
Payton when Westhoff was the Saints special teams coach there, and obviously they have the Sean Payton link. So I mean, Payton talks highly of Glenn pretty often. So yeah, so I think that is in the works, and he is a name that's been floated. But I agree. I think Wilkes sounds like he's probably a lock for the defensive coordinator. I know he likes to blitz from the secondary a lot. He's a big. You're going to need safeties if Wilkes is your guy. He likes to play aggressive in the secondary. So
Get Kerry Rhodes back.
that would that's funny that you say that. Dennis, I was thinking about not just Kerry Rhodes, but just like it feels like now that Aaron Glenn is the coach, like a former Jet. I feel like you're going to see like all these former Jets kind of like popping out of the woodwork.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not necessarily from like the Aaron Glenn era, but it sounds like that a lot of former Jets were advocating for Glenn to get the job. And Kerry Rhodes is actually one of the guys that I saw on Twitter earlier today that was kind of like fired up about the hiring. But I think you're just going to kind of see now a lot of former names. Like Brunell is one. Obviously, he wasn't with the Jets for too long, but I don't know that. Like, I'd be cool bringing Brunell onto the staff, but he's got to come on like in the role he's in now as like a quarterback coach.
Maybe a passing game coordinator, something like that. Like not too involved, but involved. Same thing. Bring back Nick Mangold. He's advocating. He wants to coach. He wants to get into it. Make him your offensive line coach. See what happens.
Yeah, and see that's where I think it gets weird because like us as fans, we want to see all these former Jets come back, but at the same time, like none of them have any fucking coaching experience. So like I don't want Nick Mangold to come be the offensive line coach just because he's Nick Mangold.
No, but every rookie every camp he's been spending time with the offensive line.
I get it, but I feel
lockstep with Joe Tittman.
Yeah, like come on as like an intern or like a quality control coach, like and work your way up just like Glenn did. Like Glenn came up as a quality guy and then went to scouting and all that. So I mean, I don't know that you want to just like bring these guys. Like I know Victor Green is even on Twitter. Like, what are you going to hire Victor Green? He's never coached in his life. He's going to be the cornerbacks coach. Like
Antonio Cromartie, I'll bring in a heartbeat though.
Yeah, but that's a guy that's been working at it. You know, like he's been coaching college. He went through the Jets program last summer. He's got to feed. He's got to feed the kids. Damn right.
He's got to bring that up, huh?
Hell yeah. But it seems like the guy that's the hot name right now for the offensive coordinator is the Rams, the tight end and passing game coordinator, Nick Colley.
Nick Colley, yeah.
Name. Yeah, he seems like he's the name that everybody is kind of throwing out there that is the front runner. I truthfully don't know much about him to have an opinion. I mean, from the McVay tree. So, like,
cool. I've looked into him a little bit, but that's the biggest thing. He comes from that tree and it works.
But he's not, like, what is he actually, like, passing game coordinator? What does that entail in a McVay offense? Like, McVay's calling the plays offensively, and then LaFleur is the offensive coordinator. So you're like 2 or 3 kind of circles away, removed from, like, actually calling the plays. And Matt Stafford is a Hall of Famer. So, like, does he need a passing game coordinator? Like, I just don't know how effective. Like, that's a big jump to go from tight end coach your entire career to 1 year being a passing game coordinator to going to New York as a first time offensive coordinator on a team that struggled offensively historically for the last 15 years.
Well, you mentioned Clint Kubiak earlier, right?
Yeah, that's a name I've heard. He was in New Orleans, yeah, and they were doing really well before they got hit with injuries. You know, they were balling at the beginning of the year. Carr was rolling.
What I heard that he's from he's Gary Kubiak's son, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And then there was like a thing that I saw. This is why I know his name. Like I saw this thing on, I forgot what it was, but I think it was Bill Belichick, and he had like Chris Long, and he had Chad Ochocinco on. But he's going through like coaching. And he's talking about how Kyle Shanahan runs this and blah, 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 blah. And he does this with Christian McCaffrey. And Shanahan came from Gary Kubiak or something like that. Like they have like ties. Yeah. And then And then he's asking Ocho Cinco, how's this and this and this and that. And he's like, that's Clint Kubiak. And he goes, yeah. So you go over here to New Orleans and you say, he goes, what do they do with Alvin Kamara? They do the same thing with what they do over there in San Francisco with Christian McCaffrey. Why? Because Clint Kubiak comes from Kyle Shanahan and Gary Kubiak and blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, I'll take Clint Kubiak. That's it right there.
Yeah. Young guy from a good coaching tree. And he kind of, you hit it on the head, PJ. He utilizes the talent there to, like, Breece Hall is so underutilized historically here.
Yeah.
It feels like Kubiak's a guy that could unlock him, just like you said in the past. How Shanahan uses McCaffrey and how
So
he
they
uses
let him go. They let New Orleans let him go.
I think he's available, or he might be. I don't know if he's actually under contract or not. I'm not sure, but he's a name definitely connected there.
I feel like we should get him.
Can you look that up, Spiga? I don't. I think he's under contract, but I don't know how that works.
It shows that he's offensive coordinator for the Saints. Still is.
Yeah, but he's like the hot name that I've seen for the job. So I don't know if they'd have to request permission or whatever. I don't know how that works, but he's definitely a name I've seen connected to the job a lot. I'd enjoy that hire for sure. He's young, but he's experienced, which is a good thing, you know.
Oh no, it could be a hot take, could be a Josina bomb. But Josina Anderson recently 2 hours ago posted, Rams fans, tell me about tight ends passing game coordinator Nick Caley, smiley face. So does that mean he's about to get picked up somewhere? Who knows? She's been dropping a lot of jet bombs lately.
Yeah, that's the guy I just referred. I have a feeling he's going to get the job, and I don't know that I love that. But it also sounds like there's a lot of veteran names that might come on the staff that maybe, you know, not coordinators, but what did I see before, Spiga? It was the former Chiefs coach.
Spagnuolo?
No. Fuck. He was the head coach. Haley? Todd
Haley. Todd Haley.
Yeah.
I would not.
And he was the offensive coordinator for the Steelers too.
Yeah.
They were good.
Yeah.
They were
so
not good.
Let me pull this up. I saw it earlier. It was I'll list the names real quick.
You got your DoorDash?
Nah. I can't order it until I get off. I'll probably go.
Sounds like you opened up a bag of chips.
It was actually this over here.
Yeah, so Jordan Schultz from Fox Sports, he says Steve Wilkes is the name at defensive coordinator, Mark Brunell, Chris Banjo as the special teams coach, who I think was I think he was the special teams coach for Sean Payton in Denver. Former Bears interim head coach Thomas Brown, former Chiefs head coach Todd Haley, and Mike Westhoff, should he decide to come out of retirement. Those were the couple names that were floated by Jordan Schultz. So I don't know if you bring in a Mark Brunell, who's a veteran quarterback. He's got experience now, 2 or 3 years quarterback coach experience. You bring in Haley. You bring in another guy or two that has some experience to just kind of, I don't know. I know it's a lot of, I don't know. For me, it's a lot of what ifs though, you know, like a lot of first-time head coach, first-time offensive coordinator. I know we'll jump into that in a second before we wrap here in a few minutes, but probably looking at probably a first-time GM. It's just a lot of first-time experience for a team that really, it needs to hit. And I don't know that it necessarily has to be this year, but it's a pivotal year because you have this young core that Douglas kind of hitched his wagon to that 22 draft with Gardner, Hall, Wilson, and Jermaine. Those guys are all coming up on paydays in the next year or two that you probably can't keep all of them. And so that window is going to close really quick. You don't know who the quarterback is. If Rodgers is coming back for this year, that's a 1-year window. So it's an awful small window to have all.
It's a tough job to walk into, no matter who it is.
Yeah, no shit. So it's definitely tough. So I'll be interested to see. I really think they have to get this offensive coordinator right. But if it's Wilkes as the DC, like you said, I'm all on board
I
with
feel
that.
okay with that. Yep.
And obviously I think the biggest thing though today that came out of today, not necessarily the Glenn hiring, because we all saw that coming, but we also thought that Lance Niemark was going to be coming with him as the general manager, and it sounds like now that still might happen, but it might not happen. And now the Jets are going to bring in a couple more guys for interviews over the next couple days. A lot of people are kind of trashing the Jets, and I don't really get it. But do you guys feel like they should have hired the GM before hiring the coach, or are you kind of just cool with the structure that they have now? I mean, how do you guys feel?
It's in theory in a normal hierarchy. Yeah, you want to hire your GM and then he helps hire your coach, but that's not how the Jets operate, and it's notorious that is not how they always operated. The head coach and the GM are on the same even keel. Both of them report to Woody. So to me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'd like to have, one of their input on the other, and in theory, it'd be the GM to the head coach. But the way the power dynamic works in New York, it doesn't matter. So it's anywhere else. Yeah, it's weird. But for the way it's done here, get your head coach, get the guy you wanted. I mean, there's not very many sexy names out there in the GM world, but also too, there really was only the Jet job until today, when the Raiders job closed and then the Jacksonville Jaguar one randomly opened up. So a lot of names, only a small, subset of jobs to pick from, but it's got to hit another one. It's just, you got to get the right one.
I thought they were looking at Louis Riddick for GM. Is that gone? Is that done?
I mean, they interviewed him once. I mean, they interviewed, I think, 16 different people.
I don't think he had the second call back.
Up until today, they only had one second interview, and that was Niemark, that everybody thought or assumed they were going to hire with Glenn.
I still kind of think it's going to happen.
It might.
Look, what, the Niemark thing?
Yeah, I think eventually, by tomorrow or whatever, he'll be signed. And I mean, if not, it's it's the Jets.
That's a hot take, Dennis.
It just happens, but I think he'll be signed.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I could see that happening too. I mean, it sounded like they went pretty far down the road with him and Glenn yesterday, and it's just weird that they both left the building and only hired one of them.
Unless like it was yesterday where Aaron Glenn was locked up, they just didn't announce it. Maybe he is, but then they're taking new meetings. So no, that's
why would you bring two new people in for interviews if that was locked up?
Well, I'm seeing the names. I'm
kind
seeing,
of intrigued. Darren Moogie from the Broncos. He's the assistant GM, and Bengals senior personnel exec Trey Brown. I mean, both successful teams. Again, it goes back to the connection, the whole, the Darren Moogie, the assistant GM of the Broncos. Obviously, that is an affiliation with Sean Payton. Glenn obviously got his first coaching gig full-time under Payton. So there's kind of who knows, Glenn could have been talking to Payton. He could come with a recommendation from Payton because they have worked together. So, like I said, don't know a whole hell of a lot about either of those guys, and I don't know a whole hell of a lot about Lance Newmark either. Just other than I do like that he had 25 years in the same place.
Yeah.
Granted, there was a lot of losing there, but I think if you go through different regimes and GMs and coaches and you still keep your job, that says a lot. And he was there for the turnaround and bringing in Campbell. And then he was part of the turnaround in Washington this past year.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's all about changing cultures and knowing, I guess, the secret sauce, if you will, to kind of going from losing to winning in a quick manner. The Redskins were sitting there at 4-13 last year, and here they are going to the NFC Championship game. So, anything is possible, But I'm just looking for them to get that nailed down because it's going to be a big offseason, not even just for the draft, but you got to get the quarterback situated. Does the new GM want Aaron Rodgers? That's the biggest question. Are they going to run it back? And if they're not going to run it back, who's the quarterback this year? Because there are not a whole lot of attractive options out there on the free agent market. and you weren't bad enough this year to pick in the top 2 or 3 to get a quarterback. So,
Jalen Milroe in the second round. Just do it.
I like it. I like it. We'll get into the draft. We'll get into the draft as we get a little closer into the offseason. But obviously, just kind of wanted to get your thoughts today on the whole Aaron Glenn and the GM situation. So obviously, it was a good day. I think we're all happy overall. And
Yes, sir.
Something's got to change, boys. Something's got to change.
It
This
will
can't go on
eventually.
forever.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We say it every year though, right? This is the year. This is the year the worm turns. But
well, listen,
if
there's any Zodiac people out there, I know 2025 is the year of the snake, so it's shedding the bad skin, shedding the bad juju of the
I'm gonna
Jets.
believe it's our year when PJ says it.
What?
Same.
I said when PJ finally says our year, I'm gonna believe it. That's the year.
I feel like I've said that before, though.
Yeah, he's definitely said it before. He's felt good about it before. We've all felt good about it before. But this is what we do every year too. You know, we win the offseason every year. We're fired up about the coach. We're fired up about the coordinator. Fired up about free agency and the cap space. Fired up about the draft pick. And then it all turns to shit by the third week in September.
Or the fourth play of the first game.
Yeah. But I honestly believe I think their best path to being successful next year is to run it back with Rodgers.
It makes the most sense.
He looked healthy at the end of last year. He was hurt the entire year. That Vikings game in London fucked his entire season up. He couldn't even walk. He probably should have came out and sat for a while and let Tyrod play. But obviously he wasn't going to do that. He wasn't healthy. But by the end of the year, he was healthy. And it showed. You could see the level of his play kind of went up. And is he great? No. But, I mean, he had a really bad year by all, I guess, intents and purposes. And it goes down as like the third best quarterback season in the history of the Jets franchise.
Which is wild.
And so I think for the fully healthy season, if he stays healthy, he can only go up from there. And so it's funny, but we're going to wrap here. But just one thing I was thinking about today, like I was looking at Rodgers. No, I think Rodgers went 29 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. Yeah. And I remember when we were debating whether we wanted the Jets to go after Rodgers or sign Carr. I think Carr's career averages were very similar to that. I think they were like his best year was like 29 and like 11 or 12. And I remember at that time saying, if we got that any year, we'd be a playoff team. If we just got like 29 touchdowns and 13 or 14 picks. And here we are. We didn't even win. Couldn't even win more than 5 games with a season like that. And of course, because it came in a season where the defense regressed. If we got 29 and 12 last season or the season before, we're in the playoffs. But the defense regressed the same year that we got at least improved quarterback play. And like the Jets starting quarterbacks, I looked 2 years ago. Zach Wilson threw 9 touchdowns, 9 the entire season.
Jesus Christ.
Rodgers just threw 29, and Wilson won more games that year, which is crazy.
Oh yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, it's just insane. But we're not going to dwell on the past. That's a prior regime. It's in the past. We're moving on.
Baby. New chapter.
But that's going to wrap it here. Yeah, we say it every year. But yeah, well, once I would think we're going to have a GM here wrapped in the next couple of days, I'd hope. And then we could at least kind of get down to figuring out who that is and what their past is and hear what their vision is going to be to kind of either extend this roster, guys that are due for extensions this year. You know, Garrett Wilson's due to get paid this offseason.
Give him whatever he wants.
He's obviously been super unhappy. Does he want to stick around in this situation? Does the new GM want him to stick around, or is he going to trade him and get a bunch of picks and just kind of build this roster in his image? Are they going to keep Rodgers? If they do, is Adams going to stick around? What are you going to do with Breece Hall? He's going into his final year. So there's just so many unanswered questions that this probably first-time GM is going to have to answer. And he's going to have to answer them quickly because we're already going to be into February here in the next couple of days. So
it's combine time.
Yeah,
Right
we're
back at
getting
it.
close. But all right, guys, it was awesome to get back into the flow doing this. I know it's been a while, but
Miss you boys.
missed you guys too.
Yeah.
It was a good day though. We haven't had a good day in quite a few months for this franchise that's just kind of been starved for something positive to happen. So we got our guy, and let's hope he's the one to kind of do what Parcells did 35 years ago and kind of take them from the bottom to the top.
Now we're here.
We here, baby. All right, we'll talk to you. Appreciate you, Dennis, PJ, and Spigo. We'll be on the lookout for the new GM.
Yep. See you later, boys. Jet up.
Peace.
Later, fellas.